To most people, igloos might just look like cool little snow houses, maybe something out of a holiday movie. But to the Inuit, they're a masterpiece of survival technology, crafted over thousands of years to withstand some of the harshest conditions on Earth. Imagine this. Outside, the Arctic winds are howling. Temperatures have plummeted to minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 45 degrees Celsius, yet inside an igloo, it can be a cozy 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 degrees Celsius, just from body heat alone. That's not a happy accident. That's pure architectural brilliance. A 4,000-year-old housing hack, igloos aren't just emergency shelters. They're a testament to how indigenous knowledge can turn even the most extreme environments into livable spaces. The Inuit have been building these for over 4,000 years. Talk about a design that stands the test of time. And here's something interesting. The word igloo actually just means house in the Inuit language. So technically, saying igloo house is like saying house house. But thanks to Hollywood, a lot of people assume all Inuit lived in igloos year-round. That's about as accurate as saying everyone in Texas lives on a ranch. In reality, igloos were mainly used as temporary shelters during hunting trips, a practice that still continues today. And get this, skilled Inuit builders can whip up an emergency igloo in just a few hours. That sure beats struggling to pitch a tent in minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit weather. But enough history. Let's get into how you can build an igloo yourself. Building an igloo isn't just about piling up a bunch of snow, it's about using the right kind of snow. Not all snow is created equal. You need something called sintered snow, a type of snow that's been naturally packed by the wind until the individual snow crystals actually bond together at a molecular level. This isn't your average fluffy snowman material. This snow is so densely packed that you can barely push your finger into it. So how do you find it? The Inuit have a brilliant method called the stick test. They walk around poking a traditional hunting stick into different snowbanks, feeling for just the right amount of resistance. If the stick slides in too easily, the snow is too soft. If they can't push it in at all, too hard. They're looking for that just right zone where the stick meets firm resistance but still pushes through. And here's a crazy stat. Experienced Inuit builders might test 40 different spots before finding the perfect snow for their igloo. That's a lot of poking around, but it's absolutely crucial. Using the wrong type of snow would be like trying to build a brick house out of crackers. Sounds fun, but it's not going to last. Once they find the right snow, they've basically struck white gold. Here's the mind-blowing part. Under the right conditions, blocks cut from sintered snow can actually be stronger than concrete of the same thickness. How? It's all about the ice bridges. When snow gets compacted just right, the individual flakes partially melt and refreeze, creating tiny frozen connections between them. This turns soft, fluffy snow into a material that's lightweight, strong, and insulated, the perfect building material for an igloo. Now that we've got the perfect snow, let's talk about the tools you'll need to shape it. Forget power drills and construction crews. You only need one tool to build an igloo: a snow knife. The Inuit call it a pana, and it's a game changer. Think of it as a snow sword, a long, wide blade designed specifically for cutting and shaping snow blocks with precision. This isn't your sad, bent butter knife that's been stuck in the freezer too long. The pana is an expert tool, honed over generations, allowing builders to carve out the perfect building blocks in record time. And once you've got your snow and your knife, you're ready to start stacking. But there's a trick to getting an igloo to stand strong. We'll get into that next. If you're building an igloo, you need the right tools, and no, your garden hedge trimmer won't cut it, literally. While traditional Inuit builders swear by the pana, modern igloo architects have started using carpenter's saws. It's kind of like upgrading from a flip phone to a smartphone. Both get the job done, but one makes things a bit easier. If you go the saw route, it needs to be at least 2 feet long to slice through those thick snow blocks properly. Besides a cutting tool, you'll also need a snow shovel, not just for clearing your workspace, but also for gathering loose snow, which is crucial for sealing gaps later. A measuring stick, about 2 feet long. Traditional builders often just use their forearm, which works great, unless you're built like a T-Rex. Snow goggles, these are a must. The Inuit traditionally made them from caribou antler or wood, with narrow slits to reduce glare. They're not just for style, though they do look cool. They protect against snow blindness because working in the Arctic without eye protection is like staring into a giant frozen disco ball. Now that we've got our toolkit sorted, it's time to lay the foundation, the single most important step in igloo building, laying the foundation. The foundation of an igloo is like a first date. If you mess it up, everything after that is doomed. That's why Inuit builders spend more time on this step than any other. First, they clear the site down to hard-packed snow. Then comes the crucial part, marking out a perfect circle. And here's where things get clever. One builder stands in the center holding one end of a rope, cut to the igloo's desired radius, while another walks around the perimeter, dragging the other end in the snow, essentially acting like a human compass. Just like that, they've drawn the blueprint for their icy masterpiece. Cutting the block size matters when it comes to snow blocks. Traditional Inuit builders cut them to 2 feet long, 1 foot high, and about 8 inches thick. These aren't just random measurements, they're designed to be easy to lift while still being strong enough to support the structure. And here's the part where most DIY igloo attempts fail, the first block placement. This cornerstone block needs to be set at a slight inward angle, about 15 degrees. If you don't get this right, your igloo might end up looking less like a dome and more like a snow pile with big dreams. To make sure the blocks fit snugly, builders cut the bottom edge at an angle, a technique engineers would call a positive angle of attack. Of course, the Inuit had already perfected this method long before modern engineering put a name to it. Once the foundation ring is complete, it already hints at the classic dome shape to come, and that's where the real magic happens. Building the dome now, this is where things get really cool. Constructing the dome is like playing Jenga in reverse, except if you do it right, instead of removing blocks, you end up with a fully functional house. Each row of snow blocks spirals upward and inward at just the right angle to form that iconic dome shape. The math behind it is incredible. Every block needs to lean inward about 2 inches more than the one below it. This gradual inward tilt is what makes the dome structurally sound, and if you think it's just for looks, think again. The blocks get progressively smaller as the walls rise, which serves a crucial engineering purpose. Larger blocks at the bottom create a stable, weight-bearing foundation. Smaller blocks at the top reduce pressure and keep the whole structure balanced. Think of it like a pyramid scheme, but one that actually works. With the dome taking shape, we're almost there. But there's still one crucial element missing, the keystone. And that final block is what locks the entire igloo together. And unlike a bad pyramid scheme, this one doesn't end with your aunt trying to sell you essential oils. Here's a mind-blowing fact. In a properly built igloo, each snow block carries just the right amount of weight to compress slightly, making it stronger without crushing it. The pressure on the bottom blocks hovers around 10 pounds per square inch. Too much, and they'd crumble. Too little, and they wouldn't bond properly. It's like nature's version of a self-tightening knot. Now let's talk about the rookie mistakes that can turn your dream dome into a disaster. Classic igloo building mistakes, and how to avoid them. Not maintaining a consistent inward spiral. If one block leans too far in or out, the whole structure's thrown off. Making blocks too thin, trying to save time by cutting smaller blocks, that's like building a brick house out of crackers. Not going to end well. Bad cutting angles. If your cuts aren't precise, you'll end up with gaps that weaken the entire structure. Rushing the process. If you get impatient, you might end up with an unexpected skylight. But if you've made it this far, you're almost at the finish line. Now comes the most crucial moment, placing the keystone block. This final snow block, dramatically nicknamed the king block, is like the last piece of a puzzle, except this puzzle is holding up hundreds of pounds of snow over your head. It's the architectural equivalent of threading a needle while wearing mittens. It takes precision, patience, and maybe a little luck. Here's how it's done. Cut it slightly larger than the hole, just half an inch bigger gives the perfect snug fit. Shape it like a truncated pyramid, wider at the top than the bottom so it wedges itself into place, just like the last piece of an arch bridge. Maneuver it through the hole from the outside. Picture trying to fit a couch through a narrow doorway, except you're upside down in the cold with a block of snow that could shatter if you sneeze too hard. Even experienced Inuit builders sometimes need 2 or 3 tries to get it just right. For first-time builders, the success rate on the first attempt is about 10%, so if you nail it, consider yourself part of an elite club. Once the king block is in place, there's always a few seconds of silence, the moment of truth. If the dome holds, congratulations, you've just built one of the most ingenious structures in human history. And while you might want to celebrate, maybe don't cheer too loudly. You don't want your victory shout to bring down the house, literally. Now that the dome is done, it's time to upgrade from snow cave to cozy Arctic suite. The cold trap entrance, your built-in heating. Hack first up is the cold trap entrance, which sounds like something out of a spy movie, but is actually an ingenious piece of engineering. The entrance tunnel is built slightly lower than the igloo floor. Since cold air sinks, it pools in this lower section instead of rising into the living space. Think of it like a bouncer at the door, but instead of keeping out rowdy partygoers, it stops cold air from crashing the party. The ventilation hole. Yes, your snow house needs one. Here's something that surprises a lot of people. Igloos need ventilation. A small hole, about fist-sized, is carved near the top of the dome. This prevents suffocation and manages humidity, because without it, your cozy snow shelter would quickly turn into a foggy igloo sauna. Here's where things get really interesting. A properly built igloo can be up to 40 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the outside air. That means if it's negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit outside, the inside can stay at a relatively toasty 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that might not sound like a tropical vacation, but when you've been out in the Arctic cold for hours, stepping into an igloo feels downright cozy. But here's the real genius behind it. Your own body heat helps warm the space, and it gets even better. As the interior warms, the inner surface of the snow melts slightly, then refreezes into a thin layer of ice. This ice strengthens the igloo even more, almost like the structure is reinforcing itself using your own warmth. So, not only is your body keeping you warm, but it's also helping build a stronger shelter at the same time. You'd think lighting a fire inside a house made of snow would be a terrible idea, right? But surprisingly, it works. The Inuit traditionally use seal oil lamps, called kulik, pronounced kulik, for both light and heat. The dome shape of the igloo helps distribute heat evenly throughout the space. The snow walls act as insulation, keeping heat in without melting the structure. A small ventilation hole near the top lets out smoke and excess heat so you don't turn your igloo into a steam room. Of course, we're talking about a tiny controlled flame here, not a bonfire. A properly managed fire makes the igloo even warmer and more comfortable without turning it into a snow puddle. Igloos aren't just emergency snow forts, they're seriously versatile. For Inuit hunters, these icy domes are as essential as a Swiss Army knife. During long hunting trips that can last for weeks, igloos serve as quick shelters. An experienced builder can throw together a basic igloo in about 2 hours, faster than most people can figure out modern tent instructions. Command centers, these aren't just for sleeping, they're hunting bases, where hunters plan, rest, and prepare. Arctic refrigerators, the stable temperature inside an igloo, stays just below freezing, perfect for storing meat. Bear-proof food lockers, the solid snow walls keep out hungry polar bears that might be looking for an easy meal. Think of it as nature's freezer, without the electricity bill, and when built properly, a well-maintained igloo can last an entire hunting season. Here's something most people don't realize. Igloos need regular maintenance. They're not set-it-and-forget-it shelters. Smart hunters patch up cracks before they become weak spots. Add fresh snow to reinforce the walls. Strengthen insulation over time, making the igloo even warmer and sturdier. It's basically like repainting your house, except instead of paint, you're packing on fresh snow. Not all igloos are tiny one-room shelters. Some hunting groups build entire igloo clusters, creating an Arctic hunting lodge complex. Imagine a mini village of connected igloos, each with a purpose, sleeping areas, cold storage for food equipment, and tool rooms. Thousands of years old, yet still one of the most effective ways to survive the Arctic, proving that sometimes the best solutions are the ones that have stood the test of time. Igloos aren't just snow houses, they're architectural masterpieces of survival. Simple, smart, and built to last, these ingenious shelters have helped people not just survive, but thrive in one of the harshest environments on Earth. And now that you know the secrets of igloo building, who knows, maybe one day you'll find yourself in the Arctic putting your knowledge